One more week till Halloween. Are you one of those people, Michael or Peyton, that you get bummed when Halloween falls in the middle of the work week?
Not really. I'll dress up for work.
Yeah.
I'm actually planning to dress up for work.
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, Mads is my fiance.
Yeah.
Halloween has always just been one of those things where like it's fun.
Right.
But it's not like, oh, Halloween's happening. Yes.
There are people who get upset and then they have that debate whether they should celebrate Halloween on the weekend after or the weekend before. So I think this year people are going to celebrate it on November 1st, like that Friday.
Huh.
You know?
Sure.
I don't know if that's appropriate. I don't care. But I thought I'd throw that out there. If you're listening to this live, let me know which you prefer. Celebrating it the weekend after Halloween or the weekend before Halloween, if Halloween falls in the middle of the work day. I'm kind of curious because some people are passionate about this. Maybe because I dress up for a living, I don't care about Halloween as much as I feel like I should. But I don't know, it's lost its appeal, you know? Like if you want me to dress up as a beekeeper or something.
A
Right.
beekeeper.
I want that SAG check.
Please go with
it.
that.
A beekeeper.
For Halloween.
I actually have a beekeeper outfit.
Really?
Yeah. I have a cat costume, trash cat. Actually, you know what? Might come as trash cat for the Halloween episode.
Please do.
All right.
Yeah. He's very vulgar and very inappropriate, so definitely works for our audience. I don't even know if we're supposed to keep announcing the Alexa thing, to be honest with you, but I'm going to keep doing it.
Keep doing it.
I'm real with you guys. You guys listening, I'm real, okay? If they tell us to do something and I'm not sure, I'm going to say it on air because I'm comfortable with you. I'm really comfortable with you, the listener to Wesam's World. And if you have an Alexa, guess what? All you got to do is go, hey, Alexa, play Adobe Radio, and then boom, Adobe Radio's playing any time of the day.
Boom.
Even 4 a.m. it works. It listens to your every want and need.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest today, I guess I would describe him as a little supernatural. Like if you could see what I'm seeing right now. This gentleman has just wrote on a dry erase board, I heart you with an arrow going through it. And it just shows his undying devotion to me. You got it, Peyton? If you're watching on YouTube right now, this is the first this has ever happened. Somebody used the dry erase board. And wow, I'm moved right now. You know what? I don't even want to wait anymore. Ladies and gentlemen, producer and writer on the hit show Supernatural, Mr. Davy Perez. Come on in, man.
Where am I sitting?
Right here.
All right.
Next to me. Nice and close.
Nice.
There's your headphones.
Headphones.
Right.
Mic.
Awesome.
Sipowitz. All right. just mic check, right?
Right,
No?
mic check.
And you guys probably already did all that stuff.
Yeah, you're all ready to go. And you keep this bad boy like right underneath your chin. It's beautiful.
Right under my
Yeah.
chin.
Oh, that's beautiful, actually.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Beautiful. So I have to say,
Yeah.
throwing shade on Halloween. Did you know that was my birthday?
No way.
Yeah,
I forgot.
I'm born on Halloween. I was like, this guy's really putting the screws on me.
I'm not throwing shade on it.
And then I was like, no, he actually forgot.
I'm not throwing shade on
That's
it.
why I just had to say I heart you so much. But no, I know you're not throwing shade on it. But it's okay. It's not a holiday for everyone.
You know, it's just that I used to dress up so much, and you know who I'm actually blaming? Some of the college people I went to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they kind of turned me off for the Halloween.
I never
things.
went to an actual college. So
That's right.
Yeah. For me, I love Halloween. Obviously, it's my birthday.
Yeah.
I never have to plan anything because there's always something going on. There's
Right.
always something going on the weekend before, the weekend after, the night of.
Oh, so it works for you.
Oh, it totally works for me.
Dude, you know what? I was gonna ask you on this one. I've always felt there was this certain pull towards the supernatural.
Yeah,
not to play on words here,
sure.
but like, that's interesting.
Yeah. No, I was born on Halloween.
What time?
4:16 p.m. 1977, aging myself on the record. So you can chart whoever is into the astrological numerologies. So I believe that makes me a Scorpio with a Cancer moon and something else rising. I can't remember off the top. Maybe Capricorn. I'm not sure. But yeah, I've always been into the esoteric and the weird and the strange, and especially because that time of year, the fall, the autumn was a happy time for me. It was, my birthday, and then all the holidays come after, and I'd always get an extra candy because you just say trick or treat, it's my birthday, and they're like, oh, get the big candy bars, put it in a little bit, and then I'd be like, ha, got you. Yeah. So that's a trick for anybody's listening. Just tell people it's your birthday when you're trick or treating kids. And it doesn't actually have to be your birthday.
You lie.
Yeah, just
You're saying lie.
You lie for a living. So, kids, you can make a whole career out of lying.
You can. You really can. And I can't argue with that.
Yeah, exactly. Not to get too deep, but plenty of people make millions of dollars. Some of them become presidents. Anyway.
Glad you went there.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Yeah, that's
just some of them that people have told me about. Many, many friends.
Yeah.
Huge.
Dude, first of all, I haven't seen you since the last time you were on the show.
That's correct.
Which was last year.
Wow.
And
time goes by so fast.
Right? Congratulations.
Thank you.
15 seasons.
Yeah, I know. I've watched all of them.
That's remarkable. And also, how's your son doing?
My son is amazing. Oh, he's adorable. He's 2.5 now. His little personalities come out. Mm-hmm. He has definite opinions and preferences.
Of course.
He's really smart, and he knows how to make me calm down. Like if I'm upset with him, like, hey, stop doing that. He'll just like smile or laugh or make a joke. Like the other day, I was like, hey, do you want thinking time? We don't say time out. By the way, no, that's the new school is thinking time.
Thinking time.
Like you get your thinking time, and you sit in your thinking corner, and you still face that wall and all of that. But it's not like time out because this is time for you to actually assess what you're doing wrong. So I say, go get your thinking time. So the other day I was like, hey man, do you want some thinking time? He goes, yeah. And I'm like, you little jerk.
Okay, well,
all right. Well, then you're gonna get it,
There was this cool picture I saw that you should teach your kids. Don't say because I said so. Say think about the consequences. Oh, so I like that, like thinking time. Mm-hmm. This is interesting.
Yeah, it's always like, hey, think. Why did I give you thinking time? And did you like that thinking time, being alone?
Yeah.
Are you calm? And even though they're like just two, and people might think, oh, they're a baby, they don't know. Just It actually makes him think about it and assess things at times. And I could do things now where I'm like, hey, you've got 2 minutes to chill out or you're going to get thinking time. And he can like internalize, okay, I've got 2 minutes to calm down. And like I see him like, and then I go, your 2 minutes are up, and he just chills out.
Wow.
And it's like you treat them a little bit with some respect, and kids are amazing. They're smarter than we give them credit for.
Yeah, they're really smart. I like the way when I see like children in public, they look like little drunk people to me. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And the way they run sometimes, it's like they head first or belly first.
He can't control his body.
Yeah.
His hands are up here when he's running.
Oh, you have to have constant attention on them.
He's also a little bit of a daredevil, and we were at a pumpkin patch 2 weeks ago, and there was one of those big inflatable slides that's like meant for like 8-year-old kids, right? And he's just like, slide. And I was like, it's not the kind of slide. He's like, slide. So I'm like, okay. And then they tell me, like, you're not allowed to go up there with him. You're a parent. You're too big. You're too heavy. So this little, like, 2-year-old kid, like, climbs up. And I'm talking, like, 30 feet, like an inflatable big slide. And I'm, like watching him, like, he's going to fall. He's going to fall. He makes it to the top. And I'm like, he's going to chicken out. There's no way this kid's doing it. And he sits and he slides down, but he doesn't know how to center himself. So and I have a video. I wish I could show you. It's just so funny because there's a moment where you see on his face like, I made a huge mistake.
Yeah.
And his whole body pivots, and then he just like, it's sad because he got scared, but it was hilarious at the same time. And like you see like the oh shit moment. Yeah. His whole body pivots, and then he slams forward at the bottom, and he gets up and he's like, did anybody see that? Yeah, I don't know if I'm supposed to cry. I don't feel right. And I just immediately like went to him and like, you cool? And then he's like, nah. Like he just like at that moment he's like, I'm not cool. That was some like life changing stuff for him. But he's willing to try it. And we were at a pumpkin patch today. Yeah. And again he's like slide. He's like ready to go back up there. And he's just like,
that's good. It didn't traumatize him.
No, totally fearless.
I love oh shit moments in any kind of person's life. I just recently saw one, and there is the one where they do those treks in Africa where they like hike for a day or two to find the wild gorillas so they can see them in person.
Never find me doing that.
Dude, I would do that with my two best friends because one of them is so scared of any animal. And the thing is, whenever you encounter these gorillas, you have to, especially if the silverback is there.
Oh yeah.
You put your head down and you're so beta, like you just you become small.
It's like prison rules.
Oh yeah. Oh, and this silverback, he's casually just like on all fours walking by, grabs a guy by his leg, and drags him. And it looks like, and this guy has to weigh maybe like close to 200 pounds.
Yeah, sure.
He's dragging him like he's nothing, and then he just lets him go. And the guy looks up and he's like,
yeah.
And by the way, everybody's completely silent while this is happening because they can't do anything.
Yeah, it's life or death at that point.
It's like, bye, Greg.
Yeah. You should have shared those freaking chips with me, Greg.
Right, dude. Supernatural. You're actually writing the Halloween episode. If I'm not,
I'm writing the episode that's going to air either on Halloween or after Halloween.
That is great.
Yeah, it's
was that on purpose?
No, actually, it just happened that way. Last year, I actually wrote the Halloween episode, and I wrote it as a Halloween episode. So last year was on purpose. This year was just kismet.
Wasn't it done in a certain style, if I'm not mistaken?
Last year?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was really fun. It was basically like a mashup of every like slasher bad Halloween movie. And it was a total homage to like Halloween and Friday the 13th. And there was a movie within the episode that was like a fake movie called All Saints Day that people were watching. So you would like see a TV and then there'd be a clip of this like fake like Jason Voorhees guy.
Yeah.
And then, the ghost actually at a certain point possesses a life-size figure of that slasher character. So then, like, it's very meta, and like, they have to fight the slasher from the movie.
Yeah.
Totally, really fun. One of my favorite episodes I think I've done on the show.
It sounds amazing. And I know you can't talk about the current episode because it hasn't aired yet or anything like that. And I hate when people ask questions like that because, what can we expect from this episode? Yeah, so I'm not going to do it, but I guess what
Spoiler
I can ask...
alert,
no, can we expect any different style from it, like that, from last year's? Or is it kind of on the same...
I would say... what I can say is, this is being the last season, the first 3 episodes, which would have been aired by the time you guys people are listening to this, have, the guys dealing with, major events that, were set off at the end of last season. The guys are in a place where they're dealing with that. But for all intents and purposes, it's like a standalone episode, which, the show's known for doing these, self-contained Monster of the Week stories. So this is probably, one of the first of the season because it's episode 4. The first 3 episodes were kind of dealing with the bigger thing. This just kind of kicks off the Case of the Week adventures.
Awesome.
While also still having some kind of driving force, being the last season. It's not like all of a sudden you forget the other stuff's happening in the background.
Well, that's also one of the questions I wanted to ask you. Like, what's the writing process with the other writers and the producers like? Because how is it different from a normal season and versus the final season? Because is it like kind of like, okay, we got to do this, guys. Some writers just like, I have been pushing this for 6 seasons. This has to happen.
I mean, there's a little bit of that, but I think at the beginning of the year, we always get together and we always talk about the episodes. We did that for a little bit longer this time because we talked about a longer stretch of them. We also talked about where we're going to land, stuff like that. But for the most part, the writing process is, why mess with what works? We know how to tell stories as we've been doing it together as a team for 4 years. So we kind of use the same process where after we know what we're going for and we know who's going to be writing what, we kind of silo off into our, little writing caves. And then we come out at lunch and be like, I'm doing this. That's cool? It's still good? Yeah. Or we bug Andrew Dabb, the showrunner, like, hey, I know you're busy, but I'm doing this and that still works. And then he'll be like, oh, by the way, that doesn't work anymore. And then you have like a 30-minute conversation about what's changed. And then you make the adjustment. But because there's a lot of self-containedness in those Case of the Week episodes, it really allows you to focus on that. Like, what's the story I'm telling this week? And then, the season arc stuff, it's all, worked out with some things kind of sliding a bit. And those little sliding moments you just kind of work out as a team. Right. I have to say, like, every show is different. and how they work. This show has just found a very efficient way. I think it's not to like fluff me or fluff my fellow writer producers, but you got a talented group of individuals that you can trust that I'm going to give you this and you're going to tell this episode and it's not going to drop the ball. It's not like nothing's going to radically shift or change. Like we all know what we're doing. You all know how to make an episode of television. So go do that. And some places they might need the more of the camaraderie, or they might need more of the collaboration of a room because it's not been around as long, or it's the kind of show that just has so many different specific voices that everyone wants to make sure they nail every little piece down right, and that's its own talent, its own skill. For the kind of show we're doing and for what we do, I think it's very awesome to see that we can work together, but kind of also trust that we are on our own. Yeah,
that's a great symbiotic relationship, I guess you could say.
Yeah, like Venom, totally.
I feel like that.
We all got black goo coming out of our eyes.
Right. Sometimes if I'm trying to write, that's what I feel like. I wish there was a Venom or something to help me write.
It's such an elusive thing, because it's also, I think for me, I can say this because I have natural manic tendencies, a little bit of the bipolarism. There's days where you're just the king of the world and I'm the best individual that ever was born into the universe. And then there's days where you're like, who do I think I am? I'm the lint between a homeless guy's toes. And I guess that kind of way of seeing the world works for being a writer, because at times you got to be God and I'm controlling everything and I know where the story's going. And at other times you're just like, well, I don't got it in me and I don't got it in me. What am I going to do? And you're neurotic and you're like, I may just think of this one little thing, this one little piece and start there. And I think it's having the tools to know that even if you're not at your high point, you can actually still do prolific work.
Right. You know what's really interesting? I was having a similar conversation with my friend a few weeks ago, Charles Michael Davis, about this. And he asked me, what are your strengths and weaknesses, and how would you rate those? I'm really good at accents, I'll give that a 9, and then I'm settling in, I'm not that good at it, I'll give that a 4 out of 10. And he was like, well, how would you rate yourself? And I'm like, that, first of all, I there's no way I can start, but I can answer it this way only, and this sounds like the most cocky answer, but it's not cocky.
Well, I know you, so yes, it's
cocky.
Well, I'm just kidding. No, I'm sure it's...
No, but I see the sides, let's say for an audition, or the script, and I just start seeing the formula of what's going on. If it's written well, okay? There's the beginning, middle, and then, okay, here's the inciting incident. Okay, I'll start reading it. Maybe I have a partner, and I'm like, something's not right. Oh, stakes. Raise the stakes a little bit. Okay, wait a minute. Something's really not working. What's my objective? Oh, make that clear. It says right. Okay, cool. And it becomes more formulaic and settling in. So I don't see projects anymore because of the structure of the script. There is no, I just say, I just need time and I'll get this. Does that make sense?
That totally makes sense. That's not cocky at all. It just means that you're experienced and skilled and you understand your craft. That's what we want actors to do. Right.
But with writing, that when the structure isn't there.
Oh yeah, that's our fault.
You're like,
that's on us.
Where do, okay. If I build this here, will this stay... will this fall down or will this stay afloat? It's such a mind-boggling thing.
What it should give you, and it gives me, is an appreciation for when something is done well. You understand the work that went into it, because it's really hard to have everything be super tight and have all of those balls juggling in the air. And it's certainly a skill that I'm always trying to hone, and especially because there's sometimes where you're like, I need this to happen, just because if this doesn't happen, then the rest of the thing falls apart.
Yeah.
But getting there is sometimes we didn't logically get to that thing that needs to happen. You kind of fudged it, you know, and you really wish you had the time or the real estate or just the funds and production to do something extra to make this thing flesh out for people. And sometimes you're just like, I gotta just cheat it. I know specifically in things that I've done, moments where I call magical realism.
Yeah.
That's just, it's a magical realism moment that just happens for the fact that it has to happen.
Right.
And I'm not saying that's good. I'm not saying it's good writing. I'm not saying it's bad writing necessarily. It's just, if...
Well, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Sure,
Go ahead.
sure. No, I was going to say, as for me, if you can still get an emotion from people, still get them to experience a moment, and there's a satisfying resolution to the thing that they're experiencing, then you told them a story.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think people should recognize in their lives stuff, I call it the divine intervention moments.
Right.
That happens in people's lives
right,
all
right.
the time.
Yeah.
So when I see that in a movie and people are like, oh, that wouldn't happen, I'm like, actually, I'm okay with that part. And I'll give an example, which I was kind of, I don't want to, because I want to continue to work in this. And again, I'm real with you listeners, okay? I'm not going to bash any movie. I'm not an idiot here.
I'm not fake. I like to work.
Okay? I'm not going to do that. I'll tell you something I really enjoyed that some other people I know didn't enjoy about It Chapter 2 was the Native American, have you seen it?
Yeah.
The explanation with the Native Americans.
You're right, all the indigenous people's backstory thing.
Yeah, and how it was actually like it came from a comet.
Right.
Spoiler alert. I guess I should have said that earlier. Whatever.
Yeah.
But that to me, I was like, no, I'll buy that.
Yeah.
I'll buy that. That's not out of the realm of possibility for this film.
We're talking about a clown that turns into a spider. I think a comet from the sky with a cosmic entity from some unknown dimension. I think that tracks.
And you know why that makes sense? Because they prove that spiders on their webs can basically sail in the wind across the ocean.
What?
To islands.
What?
Yes. So for me, I'm like, okay, that's possible on the cosmic scale of things.
Yeah.
Because I don't know about you. Again, esoteric, as above, so below.
Yeah.
The cosmic is also the micro. The macro is the micro.
Right.
So whenever I'm having trouble deciphering certain things, I kind of use that. Will this formula work for this?
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I like to see things, in patterns. You're saying formula. I say patterns. There's certain story patterns out there that repeat themselves. There's archetypes, the flood story or the brothers against each other story. I mean, we certainly use that in Supernatural. So there are patterns that exist, and what kind of fascinates me is where do the patterns come from, and why do they exist? Why is humanity as a storytelling intelligent entity on this planet decided to tell these stories over and over again, and they resonate with us?
Yeah.
So when I go, to look for stories, I look at those old patterns. I like to look at myth and I like to look at legends. And I look at the new stuff too, what people are doing, just crazy out of the box kind of surrealism stuff. And I think I'm at a phase in my career where I'm still finding exactly what that voice is going to be, that brand is going to be. I know the kinds of stuff I like to tell. I like to do dark. I like to make gritty things. I like to make things that have a sardonic sense of humor, things that, disturb you on some level, whether it's a horror disturbing you or a psychological, like, oh, I just didn't like that character, and that character was too close to my mom. You know what I mean? I love my mom. I'm talking about a hypothetical viewer's mom. So I feel like I'm at a place where, like, that next thing that I do is gonna probably be like that eureka, like, this is my brand, this is what I do.
Well, before we get too far into your next project, there's I want to ask you, since you've been on Supernatural for so long, because you obviously love working there. Is there your favorite moment, either behind the scenes or stuff like that, on set, or favorite person to work with while you're there, somebody you just really vibe with?
All of them.
Yeah,
I love all of them. It's a Supernatural family.
That's awesome.
#SPN family.
Fan memory or anything like that as well?
Well, honestly, everyone's so cool there, and everyone just gets it. We understand the show that we work for. We all love it. The fans are so intense.
They're amazing.
They're amazing.
I love
fans.
them.
Yeah.
I love it when fans are that into something.
Yeah, it really feeds the ego too, because I get mentions a lot of people who's like just catching up on Netflix, and they're like, just saw Davy's episode. This is so cool the way he did this, and I'm like, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's not bad, isn't it?
Not bad, huh? You're going like that tweet.
Yeah, share it with your friends.
Yeah.
Tell them.
I mean, for my whole life changed being on the show. So I started 4 years ago. 4 years ago, was living in an apartment with my wife. We just got married. I got on the show a month after being on the show. We found out we were pregnant. So like my whole life has sort of blossomed being on the show. It was very life changing. It's syndicated, so like it's not always about the money, but when it's good, when a show is 23 episodes, 20 episodes, and people love it and they watch it, and TNT's playing reruns and green envelopes start magically appearing in your inbox at home, and I was able to buy a home, which for me it was like I never saw myself being in a position where I could actually be a homeowner,
Right.
The memories that I have of the show, are so holistic. It's hard to say like, oh, this is like the thing.
Yeah.
I mean, there have been moments like writing some episodes where it clicked for me, the craft. Like I had like a little bit of a quantum leap in how things are done. And every single one of the actors I've interacted with is just so awesome, grounded, down to earth.
Wonderful.
I mean, both the guys, Donna Hanscom on the show is played by Brianna Buckmaster, and I wrote 2 episodes with her in them, and she's super sweet. The director who directed my Tarantino episode, Richard Spade Jr., is also an actor on the show, and him and I are buddies, and I never thought that these people that are on screen, just to shit talk actors for a second, because we all know, how you guys are. But
yeah. We gotta take a quick break.
Right. Just cut that part out. No, but
what did you do?
I don't know actually. I do know for real though. We actually do have to take a quick break. We're actually out of time, but go ahead, finish up.
No, I was gonna say that as a writer, you just think about telling stories, and you just kind of get in your own head, and you always forget that that there's a collaboration going on. So it's amazing to be in a place where everyone understands that collaboration, and you get to be so close with everybody.
It's very rare. It's a blessing, and I think it's okay when you have a kid and a wife, and you can say it's about the money.
It's,
a little bit. A little bit. We'll be right back, and we'll talk some more Supernatural, future projects, and some current events. Now? Okay, now we're good. Okay, sorry, my bad.
Do you do one of these?
Yeah, we probably need one of those. I wish we would get one.
We're okay.
We're okay. Fine. For those of you listening, we did a wonderful short film 2 years ago. 2
years ago? 2.5 years ago?
2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
I really had such a great time working with you, man.
It was awesome. I really, working with you was very satisfying.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, vice versa. I mean, it was such an amazing experience. And we have to do it again. Hopefully the stars align in the future.
I'm definitely trying to, like I said, that next thing that I want to do is going to be more me, whether it's in the TV space, whether it's in the feature space. Right now I'm working towards trying to make it my own stuff. We'll see if anybody's into it. If they're not, I'm going to keep doing me. I'll probably do another short film or try to finance a feature somehow with my good looks and my, It's all about the hustle. And, I just want to tell stories, and I want them to be interesting. I want them to be saying something. And if people can't understand what I'm trying to say because I just can't pitch it the right way, then I'll just put the pieces together myself.
What kind of stories do you want to tell? Because I was asked that question a few times over the past couple months.
Yeah.
And I realized stories about family, redemption, honor, those seem to be on the top of the list for me for some reason.
Family's for sure one, just because I have a big family. I grew up. I think a lot of us, our childhoods are times that we go back to, and that they stay with us. Obviously, they're formative years for a reason. Mine was very bipolar. To go back to that theme, it was very volatile at times, but it was also a very loving environment. It was also very nurturing at times. So to have that sort of two sides coexisting at the same time is something I find interesting and fascinating. So I think also that's why I tend towards the speculative and the sort of supernatural, because it's like the other side that you never see and how to reveal that.
Right.
So I want to tell stories that are, like you said, family. I want to tell stories that have a social consciousness, that don't just kind of exist in a bubble, that exist in a time and place that is relevant to now.
Right.
Whether it's historical and whether it's we're looking back but we're saying something about the right now, or whether it's like right now and these are issues we got to deal with. I feel like that's something I have done in the past with American Crime, and those 2 seasons were amazing in that way. And I try to imbue the show that I'm on with a little bit of it, but ultimately it's the kind of show that it is for a reason. It's more of a broad show for a mass audience,
Yeah.
So, I just want to say something that sticks with people and makes them think.
Right. I always thought with Abduction, like, how could we make that into a feature?
Oh, yeah.
And like because you obviously have to add a lot more story to something.
Sure.
You can't just have me and my good looks running around with a bloody
I
forehead.
mean, it was good for the short. Let me just tell you.
But you know what? I don't know if you feel like this. You ever go back to projects you've watched, or like for me, I love going back to self tapes every now and then that I did like a few years back, because my reps, what they do is they send old self tapes I did for certain roles, and they'll be like, "Hey, look what he did with this self tape for this role. It's kind of in the same line for this character, so bring him in for this." And usually that works out. I have amazing reps. Steve Smith at Stagecoach, as well as Joseph Lee at the Joseph Lee Talent Agency. And sometimes I go back and go, oh, that was an interesting choice. I don't know if I would make that same choice now. Sometimes I go, oh, God, what was I doing,
Well, that's like for me, reading old drafts of things, reading old pitch documents. I was like, whoa, what was I? Why? Of course no one's going to buy this. This is so out there. But there's a nugget of something in it, in addition to the short that I did with you, I did one the following year with a young actress named Montse Hernandez about a girl who's trying to get into an abortion clinic in Texas to have services rendered, and there's a picket line out front, and they're kind of yelling at her, and everyone's shaming her, and a bunch of other sort of circumstances happen. But what we come to find out is she's actually there because of a sexual assault. So it's like the insult to the injury of like someone just trying to get help, but no one's listening to her. And the people that are, we're trying to help you, listen to this, are not actually listening to her.
Right.
I would have had you as the 13-year-old girl, but I understand you weren't available at the time.
I'm actually pissed off right now. Knowing that you did another project without me. I thought we had something, baby.
I'm so sorry. You can be the next.
Fuck you. No.
Show's over.
Cut it. We won't even air this.
Yeah. But like, going back to that, like, what was I trying to say with that? And then going back to Abduction, like, what was I trying to say with that? And I did go back to it recently because I was trying to say something about identity.
Yeah.
And I was also trying to say something about, the social structures that we take for granted. The thing that you believe to be true might not actually be true. And I am actually in the middle of pitching a series. I can't talk too much about it because it's based on an IP that I was fortunate enough to partner with.
Sweet.
And it's...
Just for the listeners, IPs?
Intellectual property. So it's like an existing graphic novel with a company that's everyone would recognize if I said.
Yeah.
Trying to sell that and have it be a crazy sci-fi show, at the same time be a socially relevant message. And I think I found a way to do that, which is really cool and really fresh. So I
exciting.
Hope, yeah, it's exciting. It is. And I hope that goes the distance. It's development season. So, this is the time of year where they bring writers in like me with ideas, and they're trying to put together what they think is going to be the best slate for potential pilots. You know, it could be that I didn't stick the landing and that I totally suck and don't know what I'm doing, or it could be that another strong sci-fi came in the week before with a big name director attached, and they're like, well, we really like Davy's take, but we're going to go with that sci-fi. So there's so many factors. I've learned to remove the personal out of it, which I'm sure you probably learned from all the auditioning, that sometimes it's just they need somebody that's not you,
Yeah. And that surprises me because I'm like, well, I'm the best.
Right,
so
exactly. You're like,
why are you going less than that?
You don't need somebody. You think you need someone that's not me, so go ahead and make that choice. But you really need me.
Everybody's on their own journey, and they got to make their own mistakes, and that's fine. I'm not bitter.
Yeah, it's sure you get emotional. The rejection never feels good, but you just learn to say, that I did my best work, and I could not have done any different than that. So that it just wasn't their bag.
You know, that's really difficult to learn, especially in the beginning. You know, because you know, you think you have something really good, and it's like, how could you pass on this? And one thing that I think everybody in this business, especially writers or actors, anybody else kind of pitching something or at the will of like of going through a few hoops before your thing gets picked up. There are so many factors that go involved to making you like cast in this, or picking you up as a writer, or picking up your show, and it could be the silliest things, especially if you have too many cooks in the kitchen. His hair has too much gel in it.
Yeah, right. Like, well, don't put gel in it when he goes to set.
Yeah. Or, I like the idea. I just don't like this character. Okay, well, can we just take off the character or change it? Like, why do we have to scrap the whole idea? So there's a lot of ridiculous things that happen, and that is just a truth, and the nature of that's part of the business. You just have to accept that, and the faster you accept it, you go, okay, I just have to keep working on how good I am, and that's the only thing I can control.
For me too, like something I've learned, and I think it's through the experience of just getting the fortunate hands-on experience of just making television, week after week for 50 weeks out of the year on the show that I'm on. It is a people business.
Yeah.
It is just individuals who are trying to interpret what's on the page so that they can put it on screen. And executives are no different. They're trying to interpret what's on the page. They're trying to interpret who's walking in the door and how do I get this on screen. And the easier you make it for them, the less thinking that they have to do, the less cracks they can find.
Right.
They're going to have a doubt. They're going to have a thing because no one's going to walk in your shoes and understand it through your eyes. Like, it might make so much sense to you and like the people in your circle that read the same stuff that you do and watch the same films. But if this is a person that's like just into sports and into other kinds of programming, and you're coming in with this like super bizarre cosmic sci-fi big giant world, and they're like, I never even really got into Star Wars, and you're pitching me something that sounds like that, and you're like, well, it's not Star Wars, it's this. So you can be affronted by that, you can be intimidated by that, or you can sort of get excited. Like, I try to be like, all right, how can I connect with this person so that they can get excited about what I see?
Yes. And something that's made me have the confidence to do that, because I know there's people listening to this out there right now who are going, well, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I'm good enough. I don't know. And for me, what's built up my confidence is doing class.
Yeah.
Every week. Even when I was on the show, I was still going to class every weekend.
That's
Did you know that?
Man. That's great.
Why would I was going in my mind, well, why wouldn't I?
This is why I actually like you, because you're just grounded, down to earth,
Dude.
salt of the earth. This is a love fest now.
I've been reading a lot of like pre-WGA writers off of Twitter lately, so that's kind of I've been kind of doing that, like
that's awesome.
honing my
my
writing and helping other people as well.
Well, the biggest thing I did before, when I was pre-WGA, which is a term I love, by the way. It's a new term that has sort of gotten, and I wish I was around when I was pre-WGA, because I'd be like, I'm pre-WGA.
Right.
That means, hire me.
Right.
Is I had a writing group. And I had, I wish to this day I still had a writing group. I guess the people I work with are, actually they're a writing group, a writing room. But in this writing group that I had, it was me and a bunch of other assistants that were all trying to break in and make it. And we would just all read each other's material, and we would all give each other notes. And you would just learn, you learned about different personalities and how to work with them, how to give notes, how to receive notes.
Yeah.
I think how to receive notes was the biggest lesson I took, because your first reaction is like, well, fuck you, man. You're an idiot.
Stake through the heart, basically.
Yeah, stake through the heart. You don't get it? Like, give me that. And you want to rip it out of their hands.
Chuck Palahniuk has a thing like that. Have you heard of his? Did you hear his interview on Joe Rogan?
No, I haven't.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah,
but
it's fine.
Joe Rogan had Chuck Palahniuk, writer of Fight Club, Choked,
all
those hits. By the way, if you haven't read Damned or I'm so sorry, Michael, if you can look this up, Damned, and it's the sequel to Damned, or Damned is the sequel.
Redamned?
Redamned. 13-year-old's, a 13 or 12-year-old girl's journey through hell after she ODs on marijuana.
I feel like I did hear about that.
That sounds awesome.
I read it in one sitting on an airplane.
Damn.
And I don't read things in one sitting.
I don't read things at all.
Really?
No, I read.
Anyway, Chuck Palahniuk was in this writers group meeting, and they actually said, "Hey, you can't come to this anymore.
Damned. Sorry, it is damned.
Wow.
It is damned." Yeah. They were like, "Damned," and what else? That was the sequel.
No, the first one or the second one. The sequel was Damned. The first one
Doomed.
was called Doomed.
Doomed and damned, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So they were like, "You can't come to these meetings anymore." And he's like, "What? What?" He's like, "You made somebody feel very uncomfortable with your writing."
Wow, just the writing.
Just the writing aspect. It's not, you know what I mean?
Wow.
Like, so someone else is writing. Not even they were
Yeah,
attacked,
yeah.
but they were like, "Oh no, you can't come in here with that."
That's
making it.
to me, that's a little extreme. That's because, like, I might not agree with what you're doing on the page as far as the story that you're trying to tell, but I can see it and say, well, if this is what you're going for, these are my opinions about it.
Yeah.
And if I like was offended by something, I would have the courage to say, this offended me for these reasons. If that's the thing you're going for, then you accomplished it. If you didn't intend that to be the message, you might want to look at that and adjust it. But I think I have the benefit, again, of a lot of experiences, but I was never like taken aback. I was more taken aback by people's attitudes than I was by their content.
Yes.
When someone's just like, well, that doesn't work. And you're like, well, why doesn't it work? And they're like, it just didn't work for me. I'm like, well, I need more than that.
Yeah.
Well, it just didn't work, and this is what does work. And you're like, what? Like, that doesn't, like, your version of my thing isn't what I asked for.
Right.
I asked for how to make my thing better.
Yeah,
So it's
absolutely.
And so don't start pitching how you would take my premise and make it into your opus. Pitch me where I screwed up on the page and how can I strengthen it.
That's so tough for me, working with people like that. I don't mind, like, I critique or certain people's input, but, like, it's that personality aspect, especially when there's too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, my man. I go crazy. I got to tell you this story.
Yeah.
I was doing this thing with my old roommates and old friends where we were basically putting on a bunch of short videos that were part of their Kickstarter page for their musical theater company. And then every week we had to do, it was the most insane production schedule.
Right.
Like a 3-minute video that had the theme of a musical, and then 8 weeks leading up to until the end of the Kickstarter project.
Wow.
And keep pushing like the musical theater program. And we kept writing these scripts. The guy didn't like me, the main musical theater.
Oh, yeah.
He just didn't like me at all. And there was already like all this input on the project. Every time I would say something, he would shoot me down.
Yeah.
Finally, my last straw was this. He go, I've written this script and I thought it was good. Other people thought it was good. We could make it work, and we had to trim it down or whatever. And then he goes, you know what? Can we shoot this in the style of The Office? And all of us were just like, why? May we ask why?
Yeah.
And he's like, I've never seen the show. I just know that it's popular.
Oh, my God.
My dude, my guy. I was like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Bye.
That's when you're like, cool. I'm checking out. Thanks. Yeah.
That kind of patience.
Yeah.
You just have to trial by fire and learn to work with that when you're in the professional space, or have you at times thought about quitting?
No.
Okay.
No. I think when you're on a show, like, at the level that I'm at, everyone knows what they're doing. Everyone's collaborative. Even if they're going to totally rip apart your thing, they do it in a way that they're like, so we're going to rip apart your thing. And you're like, okay, but here's why.
Cool.
And you might not like it, but it's happening. Or you could make your thing better. And it's,
wow,
that's an extreme case. If anybody,
I like that though.
Yeah, they're just upfront. You have to be. You can't, but you have to be gentle and kind, because everyone is a sensitive, creative artist in their core. We all understand that. So it's not like you can come in like gangbusters and be like, what the fuck was that? That was garbage. You just don't treat people that way. You just got to say, well, you kind of didn't get there. You missed the mark, and here's why. Let me help you out. I think, certainly, I'm sure in some rooms you'll have that individual who does just kind of say it like it is, and there may be some value to that for that room for some reason. Maybe the showrunner wants that tension in the room. There's just different aspects why people are allowed to behave that way.
Yeah.
Sometimes I believe it's insecurity and inexperience, but sometimes it's just, hey, I'm a no bullshit person, and that's my type of guy, and I like that girl that tells me what's it gonna be without.
You know what? I just had an idea that something that just I remember this and a realization that's come before. By the way, I still have a writer question that we were talking about earlier that we want to discuss with you about.
I'm here all day until my wife calls. Oh, she's calling now.
Oh, no. My parents had a restaurant a while back, and
right, I remember
whenever I was taking orders starting at like 10 or 11. My dad was like, like we're old school, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I remember you're like dishwashing and
cooking, sweeping,
yeah.
And eventually, once you're allowed to touch the food, we were allowed to cook. But it was first like taking orders or sweeping or doing dishes in the back, But the thing that's helped me deal with people the most in my entire life was learning to take orders at such a young age and having to deal with all the crazies that would come in.
Yeah.
From the nicest people to the rudest people to the actual mentally crazy to the dangerous to the I'm not sure what this person wants to order and he's driving me crazy.
Well, it's funny because before I was a writer professionally, I was a waiter for a really long time, so I had that same experience. But I was also a bank customer service rep.
Wow.
I was that person you would call when your checking account bounced.
Oh, boy.
And was like, why did you cash a check even though I was already overdrawn? Like, I would have to be the one to explain to you how, while we, checks come in at night and if you had over... So I'd have to basically talk people through their own bad banking habits.
Yeah.
And the amount of just vitriol that you receive on a daily basis because it's people's money. You can't fuck with people's money.
True.
And you get calls from people in Vegas who are like, I'm trying to pull money out and I can't. So they actually put you in what's called de-escalation classes.
Wow. Okay.
So you learn how to use your voice calmly, how to listen, how to parrot, how to acknowledge someone's problem without admitting that it's a problem or admitting that you're at fault.
Right.
I hope Amanda doesn't hear any of this because I totally don't use that skill in my marriage. But I use that skill every day. I mean, just with people on the street. But it's valuable to interact in a creative, space.
Oh, yeah. And knowing when to kind of put on the burners with certain type of people, be like a little bit more edgy or forward or curt. With my brother William, because he moved out here 3 years ago. And all my close friends know I'm a pretty intense person in general.
Right.
And I love my brother. I have the utmost respect for him. But there are certain things which I know, like, at first it might seem like, from an outside perspective, why is he being so mean to his brother? Yeah. For instance, I'll go tell him something to the effect of, this is hey, me and my buds we're gonna go down and go to Studio Sushi in Studio City, right? And there's only one location.
Right.
We're gonna be there at 6. He's like, cool, can you send me the address? And I'm like, no. You look up the address.
Right.
I gave you enough information right now, so you look it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Because I want him to get used to looking up the information.
Right.
Now, if there was like, hey, we're going to be at the Starbucks. Well, which one? There's like a 5 million Starbucks. I like doing those kind of things.
Why are you so hard on your brother, though?
Dude, because we live in Los Angeles, Davey. And there's competition everywhere.
Yeah,
I want him to be like thinking 3 steps ahead rather than being...
Do you think it's a generational thing or do you think that's just his personality?
I think it's a few things.
Yeah.
I was the oldest.
Right.
I have like 6-7 years experience on him, so I'm trying to let him not make the same mistakes I made.
Right.
And I know that this path is the right path, and how much of an edge you have to have living in Los Angeles or any big city. Yeah. In fact, anywhere you live nowadays, because even if you want to be a doctor, competition is hard to be a doctor. If you want to be a business manager of a restaurant, there's still so much competition for that. So I'm really curt with him in certain areas of that, just so he like realize, oh shit, that's why he's so blunt about
Right,
this with
right.
these things. But you got to know also, and it's just like, I think it's time and experience. I don't know if you agree with me. I mean, you have a son, and you might be trying this out with him. Like
Right.
at a certain point, you're gonna have to get super curt and super like blunt.
I
Do you
mean,
feel like
I mean, I do. I mean, when I have to have him lock it up, you know, there's just a dad skill that kicks in. I'm the third of 7, so
That's right.
Not the oldest, but of the older clan, I would
Yeah.
say, or the
I like that.
generational older. So
Clan.
there's 4 younger. But what I learned is that each of them is unique in their own way, in the way
Very.
that I can connect with each one of them. Is, you know, and I was kind of like that with my younger brother when he was living with me long time ago. I'm talking like I was mid-20s and he was like 18, you know, maybe younger. And I was curt at times, and it frustrated me because I'll tell you a story I love to tell. I told it at his wedding. So he moved in with me, and he was always playing video games.
Yeah.
And just taking what would we now call medicinal relaxants.
Right.
Back then it was like
Advil.
He's just yeah. He was just being that guy on the couch, right?
Yeah.
And I told him, I got real tough with him. I was like, dude, you have a week to find the job because I'm gonna start charging you rent on the 1st, and you gotta have rent. If you don't have the rent, you gotta have a job. And I thought, I'm fucking front on this kid. Tell him what's up. Yeah, I got it, man. I got it. And I was going away that weekend for something, and he was playing Guitar Hero. And he's just, yeah, I got it, man. I was like, all right, cool. And I'm gone for like 3 days, right? And I come back, and the fucker's playing Guitar Hero. And I'm like, dude, what'd you do all weekend? He's playing Guitar Hero. I'm playing Guitar Hero. And I'm like, yo. And I don't know if I went off on him or if I was just like, but I remember being very abrasive and like, dude, you're in the fucking living room playing Guitar Hero. Did you do anything this weekend but that? Like, at all? And he's like, no. Like, looked at me like I'm stupid. Like, no, that's all I did. And I was like, oh, and I couldn't talk to him. And I just kind of like went to my room. I was like thinking in my head, what am I going to say all week? How am I going to kick out my own brother? Oh, my God, I love Joey. How could I do this? On that Friday, I go, dude, I got to talk to you. He goes, hey, man, I got a job. And I was like, what? Yeah, I'm a video game tester. I got a gig. A friend of mine introduced me to this thing. I had never played Guitar Hero, but I cracked the fucking code all weekend playing it. I was high off my ass, but I cracked it. And I'm gonna be a video game tester. And I was like, don't. I was so like up my own. Just and I like I was like, the universe was telling me just chill out, like, you know, show the kid some respect. But also, like, I was a little pissed that he was a video game tester at first, like, but then I took a step back. I'm like, okay, that might not be what I consider a real job or whatever, you know, but he's gonna get a job, he's gonna pay the rent. And I said, fine, go test your video games. Flash forward to that's his industry now. The guy's in video games.
What?
Yeah,
Dude, I love that.
yeah. He's like a
That's hilarious.
A producer and does quality check and he's worked for a bunch of different companies, and that's him and his wife. That's the industry he works in. That's what he's passionate about. And I was like, it was a lesson.
Thanks to you.
Thanks to me, Joey. But I lived enough life to say that sometimes, not just that things work itself out, but sometimes you can't put a value of how you see things onto someone else who sees the world differently.
Ooh, say that again?
You can't put a value of how you see things onto someone else who sees the world differently. So, I mean, I'm not trying to
dig
like bust you or give you advice or anything, but that's just the lesson I learned.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I recognize he has his own personality.
Yeah.
I love him to death, and he's killing it, by the way. He makes his music. He's a full-time music producer and musician
Awesome.
in Los Angeles.
Don't be such a dick to him.
I'm not a dick, man. I'm not a dick. All right? I'm kidding. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back.
Yeah.
We're going to talk a little bit more writing,
Sure.
current events, and we'll wrap this baby up.
Sure. Whatever
Awesome.
you need, man.
We'll be back. We're back. Peyton, I'm so sorry. I know we're back. We're not going to stop recording. Would you mind getting me a water from the fridge?
Oh, yeah.
I'm so sorry. Thank you.
Peyton, can I get in on that? Yeah, just because he sent you. Because he sent you, though. I'm not the kind of person who like sends people out of the room for water, but because he sent you,
Right.
would you be so kind?
It's the help.
Absolutely.
Like from the previous.
Wow.
Oh wow! What? What? It was a previous joke.
Don't pick on the white guy, please. He's got it so hard right now.
So hard. The fellowship programs, writing
Yes.
programs. Me and Michael were talking about this earlier. Why do you think they ask you to write spec scripts in there, or they request that? What's the benefit of that when they want to hear your own voice as a writer?
Wait, so by spec you mean
Spec script. Excuse me.
like by an episode of a show that already exists? Because that's going to be the job that you ultimately get. You know, it's one thing to have the skill to tell your story with your characters, and you know the ins and outs because you had, 2-3 years to flesh out your pilot, and hopefully, it's based on something personal. So you've had your whole lifetime to understand this original pilot that you're writing. Now, you're not going to be hired on a show that's going to ask you for your original story. You're going to be hired on Stranger Things or Mr. Robot or Supernatural, and they're going to want to know that you can get in line and lockstep in and get a showrunner's tone, and also, are you being relevant? Are you watching what's out there right now? Are you going to write your spec on a show that's, everyone's talking about right now, not like, here's my spec for Breaking Bad. Well, why would you write a Breaking Bad? That's been off the air for,
Yeah.
Although some
so
people
long.
have gotten noticed for like writing, like the one guy who wrote the Seinfeld 9/11 spec.
Yeah, there's
it's like
that.
the gimmicky specs.
On occasion, you have to really be good and nail that. There's one I read that was a Friends spec, and it was called The One Where They All Get AIDS.
What? That's hilarious.
So exactly, and so you're like, well, this person like really went for this, and it made you laugh and it made you notice. But then like being a gimmick becomes its own genre. Like, oh, here's one of those gimmicky specs. You know what I mean? When I was, and I know now that for whatever reason it's fallen out of fashion for some people. I think. And I'm not trying to dog younger writers, but I think it's a little bit of hubris to say, like, I don't need to do a spec, because I can guarantee you as a showrunner, you're not going to know if this person can capture tone, voice, and do a self-satisfying episode off of one of their original pilots. You're going to want to read a second thing. And if it's a spec of a show that you actually enjoy and watch, like, great, I understand it. This person nailed it. It just makes your odds of getting that even better, especially at the very, very young, lower level, and especially to get into those fellowship programs, because they're evaluating young, lower level potential writers.
Right.
For me, if I'm ever in that position, I think I would want to read some specs, just because it's hard to
That makes sense.
understand somebody fully just based on their original
I think the
pilot.
question is more like, for me at least, it's
Yeah.
with like the sequencing of it, because for the fellowships they ask for the spec first, and then if you get to the next round they ask for an original pilot. And I kind of like question why don't they ask for the original pilot first and then ask for the spec?
Because they can't. Because again, it goes back to they're evaluating you based on a show they might watch, or a base that a show that they understand, and they read it and they go, this person can write an episode of television. Let me see their original episode of television. Versus like, wow, this person wrote something really cool and interesting, and I leaned in. I wonder if they could write television.
That's fair.
So it's like a paradigm of like, it helps to sift through it easier. You know what I mean?
Makes sense.
That's why I believe old school showrunners like it for that reason too.
Yeah. Not, I am talking Michael up, but that's because I've read a lot of his scripts. He is probably one of the hardest working writers, especially in the last year or so.
Yeah, a year and a half.
Yeah, like just the amount of stuff he's been pumping out and
Oh, really?
and developing.
What's your
so,
bag? What's your genre?
Comedy mostly,
Oh,
like dark
okay.
comedy.
Dark comedy.
So dark comedy, Michael Shore style comedy,
Nice.
Yeah.
features.
Oh, okay. If you got a spec, I'll check it out. Seriously, email it to me.
We'll do.
Yeah, I'll not a spec, an original pilot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
we'll
not
do.
hiring for your specific reason. I just want to get a sense of your writing. So.
Fair enough. TV I write with a partner, and then
Oh, forget it then.
features I write.
I'm just kidding.
Could you imagine?
There it is.
Current events. Current events.
Exactly. No, just send me something easy, like 30 pages.
We'll do.
Cool.
Yep.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Actually, let's go into current events. Speaking of
Sure.
current events, yeah. Michael, Peyton, you guys ready?
Oh, yeah.
Let's do it.
very interesting and timely because right now there's a Twitter hashtag called #PayUpHollywood that's gotten some steam over the last week, talking about assistants in the industry
Right.
and the low pay and treatment of the assistants across the board in like management agencies, in the writers' room,
Right.
our art PAs, all the different types of PAs across the industry, and people are telling their stories about coming out here and the pay that they're working for, what they have to do to like survive, and how there isn't necessarily like a path up anymore because of the short orders, short seasons.
Right.
They have to go from show to show to show.
Right.
And they started basically, they get stuck a lot of the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, I have a lot to say about that. It's interesting because I started out as an assistant. I started out as a background set PA, in my 20s. I'm a high school dropout. I come from a low-income family. We did all right. We weren't, destitute, but, I have hustled my entire life. And it took me 10, 12 years, of that kind of hustling to be like a 30-year-old assistant, and then parlaying all of that. And ultimately, being just the right place, the right time, things lined up. It's funny because I was a writer's PA on a show called My Generation. And one of the gigs that I ended up getting was, he paid me extra, actually, the showrunner, to get his groceries, and I'd have to go get his groceries. He actually did say, this is personal stuff, I understand it. I'm going to pay you like $150 extra. Is that okay with you? And I was like, hell yeah, I need the money because, yes, the assistant job was paying me peanuts. However, two parts of that. I was happy for those peanuts. I did struggle, and it was hard for me to make rent, but I was doing something I really loved and wanted to break in, and it was enough because I had come from less than that. Anyway, so I'm getting his groceries, and I'm driving him to the airport, and I'm getting to know him, and I'm getting FaceTime with this guy. The show gets canceled after 2 episodes. I go off. I take another job in the corporate world that I'm just like, this is further from the writer's room. I wanted to get deeper in the writer's room. A year and a half, maybe 2 years after that showrunner, I find out, is getting a show picked up. And he needs an assistant. And so I reach out, and I was like, if you need anything at all, please let me know. And I thought, like, if you need that guy to go get your groceries again, please let me know. And he was like, no, man, I'm looking for an actual assistant. Why don't you come in? And at the time, I had spent that 2 years writing, honing my craft, taking classes, working on me. And I got the job, and that was Noah Hawley, and that show was Fargo Season 1. That show, being an assistant on that show, was part of the reason why Steve Smith signed me. The script that I wrote that year was a spec script for Once Upon a Time, and that got me into the ABC Fellowship. And so that year was this big breakthrough year for me, and I got to go from the assistant world into the writing world. My wife came up the assistant ranks. I've personally witnessed her deal with a lot of some of the hashtag BS that it's talking about. The pay is low. Could it be more? Sure, maybe. I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it. Like, I don't want to shit on anyone's movement. You know what I mean? Especially if I'm not in that place anymore. I can't have that perspective of what they are like now. But my instinct, and maybe this is just my own internal issues, is like, if you're being treated like shit, that's not cool. Okay?
Right.
I totally agree. Like, you shouldn't be treated like shit. And if you're being worked overtime, you should be getting paid for that overtime. But as far as like, hey, we're only making $500 a week and we gotta do really low level type work. Yeah, I did that too. That's called entry level work. And as far as like the opportunities not being there, like I feel that, I feel it too with the shorter orders. I know that when I go into the landscape after Supernatural, it's going to be a whole different world. I'm not going to be making that same money that I'm really making.
100%. I agree with you on this. And there's a reason why you start off doing entry-level work on any type of thing.
Yeah.
Because you're supposed to be building you're supposed to be building good habits and certain ways of attacking problems on things that the stakes aren't so high on.
Right.
Right. You know, like, and I agree with you. Nobody should be calling you mean names. You shouldn't be treated like shit because that's
Right.
not what this is about.
Yeah.
But if, for instance, if people are getting annoyed with you because every time you go out for a lunch order or a coffee order and you're not getting that right, how can people then really evaluate yourself? Well, can they really expect me to be working on a show? How can they trust me with that?
I mean, if you can't get the coffee right, then you can't get the notes right.
Right.
You know what I mean?
At the same time, entry level pay for sure, but we know that things are becoming more expensive. So I don't know the numbers on that either because I think people should. I don't think people.
Well, I guess it's a tricky topic because this goes into the whole living wage,
right?
The whole $15 an hour for people, and I agree with the hashtag that. I just don't like that it's pay up Hollywood. I think it should be some other thing that's like respect the lower levels more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's come to encompass the mistreatment of those assistants, but it's not going to help the show's budget if now you got to budget in, an extra, couple $100,000 because you got to pay every set PA the same that you're paying the second AC. You know what I mean?
Those are two different jobs.
Those are two different jobs.
Yeah.
And if you're treating your set PA with respect, if you're treating your office PA with respect and asking them to do things that are in their purview, that's the job that they sign up for. And if they're the other stuff, I'm reading stuff where people have legitimate gripes about ridiculous, and I could tell anecdotal ridiculous stories myself. When it was happening to me, I compartmentalized it because I was like, if this is what I have to do, then I'm going to do it. And that's why I took this job, and I'm going to do it.
Right.
I knew that this was part of this job, so I did it.
For me, I think something that everybody, especially if you're an actor or a writer or whatever your job is on set, I love the PAs so much because they're the first one theirs, and they're the last one leave, and they help me with my job. So I was like, okay,
with everyone's job,
right? And so I'm like, okay, how can I make their job easier?
Right.
First of all, I communicate with them all the time. I'm like, hey, I'm not in my trailer. I'm just gonna be waiting at at the chairs on set, so they're not like running around looking for me when they have a to-do list like of 10 other things that they need to run and do. Always good morning, always good evening. How you doing? Checking in.
Right.
I think that promotes a team atmosphere, so they don't feel like they're being treated like shit either. And their jobs are actually very important. And I don't want them. When we think of entry level, we always think of unimportant jobs when it's not the case at all.
It's highly important.
Yeah, it's crucial.
And it's something I just thought of interesting when you're saying like they are juggling so many things.
Oh yeah,
and doing like X, Y, and Z, but I think something they may not have perspective on is that so is everyone else above them, and especially the person in charge, like the showrunners. The heads of departments.
Yeah,
they are equally jammed up and equally working at all hours of the night and turning material over and having calls and having things. So there's a little bit of a yes, we agree with you. Yes, we support you. Yes, be treated with respect. But also, please understand that it's not unique to you that that you work in a stressful, overworked environment, because that's the job.
Right.
We work in an industry, unfortunately, that has really intense deadlines and is always spending money where it shouldn't, and so everyone else has to pick up the price for that.
Absolutely. Let's do a quick round robin of the current events because I actually have to be somewhere soon because of Davy. It's just oh my god, Davy.
And
just keeps
I also just like I know I keep talking, but I'm not saying that I disagree with Pay Up Hollywood, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't respect and acknowledge the people.
No, absolutely
do that. I just want to make sure that we see all aspects of this.
Dude, I think it's important that we talk about it in this way as well because I feel like so often nowadays we go to one side or the other and we go F you to the other side and it becomes like a big Civil War battle. That's not what this is about at all. We're all on the same team here. We just want it to be fair.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, okay.
and I think you expressed that perfectly. So
Okay, cool.
yeah.
This is a short, little, quick one I
Okay.
wanted to share. I'm
Okay.
making sure everybody in the world sees this video.
Okay.
I know
And-
what this is.
And wait. Let me give context real quick. So a man in Ireland
Yeah.
sadly passed away. His name is Shay Bradley.
Okay.
And he was in Ireland.
Uh-huh.
He made an audio recording a year before his death. He only told his siblings and his mother, and he wanted it to be put in his coffin.
Oh my God.
And as he was being lowered.
Hello? Hello?
It's so good.
Oh man.
Hello?
No.
Let me out! Hello? Hello?
Oh.
Let me out! The fucking dog in here! Bring the fuck am I? Is that priest I can hear? That fuck! Let me out! Hello? Hello?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah.
Hello, please! Hello?
See, this is the kind of stuff I want to do at my funeral.
Yeah.
I've always told people at my funeral I want somebody to come in dressed as the Grim Reaper, stand in the back and not say a word to anybody the whole time.
I mean, you got. Yeah, I mean, it's good to have a sense of humor about things. You know what I
Right.
mean, and to understand. I think it's helpful if you know or have some sort of sense of that this isn't a finality. You know that this isn't the end of the story. You can have that kind of perspective, and maybe it helps people there to be like, oh, that's who they were in life. Why not let that person be that way still?
Yeah.
You know.
Absolutely. Anything else? We're good.
Yeah, we're good.
Davey, this has been an absolute blast. Seriously, man.
Oh yeah, it's always good to see you, man. Let's get coffee. Like, let's not let it be a year.
Well, no, I'm kidding.
Yeah. No, and like, let's
No,
get
actually-
coffee is Hollywood for like. I don't want to see you for another year.
Not in my books. My books is we're definitely going to grab lunch or coffee.
Sweet, man.
No, yeah, we need a proper catch up.
Yeah.
And I want to actually, do you still have the punching bag in your office?
No, I got rid of the punching bag. I know you wanted to come over and do some
Workouts.
workout. You can come and do workouts in my backyard anytime you want. And if I have a camera set up, that's just for personal use.
That's fine with me. Davey, thanks for coming on the show, brother. Be sure to check out Super. That's okay. Still playing it?
No,
Ellis?
we're not.
Ah.
Be sure to check out Supernatural final season CW. Yeah. You can catch up. Where can you catch up on all the episodes?
You can actually catch all the episodes from season 1 through 14 now on Netflix.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, we got a sweet deal with them.
Great.
You can start if you started season 12, you'll catch my episodes.
Wonderful.
But you should start at any point, and you know it's a great show. People love it, and the final season, I believe, is going to stay with people in a very interesting way.
Ooh. That sounds wonderful. All right. Davey, thanks for coming on the show. Play us out. Thank you, everybody at Adobe, Nice Guy Digital, Michael, Peyton, Steph. We appreciate you guys. Thank you to all our new subscribers, our new reviewers, and followers on all the social media. Thanks again to Davey. You know what? Thank you to Steve Smith.
Steve Smith, Stagecoach Entertainment. God bless that man.
God bless them. Thank you to you, the listener. Always remember to listen, think, and then talk. We out!